Good morning to the students joining me in class today, and good morning to those of you online also joining us. My name is John, and welcome to our Sunday morning class with Guy Finley. It's the first Sunday of December, and we are very glad that you're here to join us for this morning's topic and discussion. If you're new, in a moment, Guy will present a talk that lasts about 60 minutes, and then afterwards, we will have an open discussion, chance for us each to ask a question of Guy or to share an impression that we've had during the talk, and through that discussion, help each other understand a little bit better what he's presented for us today. So those of you online, you are more than welcome to join the discussion as well. You can send in your comments and questions through the chat boxes, or those of you on GoToWebinar can talk directly to Guy, and again, we encourage you to do so. Please also let us know if you have any technical issues, again in those same areas, and we'll do our best behind the scenes to help you out and keep you connected to our class today. Finally, for those of you in the room, just a reminder, if you have a cell phone, as always, please do check and just make sure you've turned it off. Here is this morning's topic, and I'll read the first key lesson as well. Our topic is the new self-understanding that dismisses nagging, fear, and self-doubt. And here is the first key lesson. An important observation, giving rise to an equally critical question that most people would rather avoid than do the work to realize its liberating answer. Have you noticed there's no place on earth where you can hide that some moment you don't want isn't still able to find you?
Are you ready? There was a song from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, long, long ago, the original one, Kirk Douglas, and he had this song, got a whale of a tale to tell you, lads, a whale of a tale or two, about the flopping fish and the moon above. Girls out, so na-na-na-da-da. We're going to look at something pretty big today, and I can only hope that you'll be as attentive as possible to what we are going to look at. I want to look at the key lesson with you for just a second. It sets the stage. I watch sometimes when the key lesson is being read to the students to see if anybody actually understands or registers what's intended. And most of the time, perhaps it's poor writing. I just don't see it. The essence of this key lesson is that, haven't you noticed there's no place on earth you can hide where the moment you don't want isn't going to find you? You've spent a lifetime believing that you can find shelter from a storm of your life as it's involved in this world, and that somehow that shelter is going to be inviolate, that somehow you'll be there, and that whatever it was that you dealt with or wherever you're going, where you'll be free, that's it. And for millennia, human beings have been believing that. And for millennia, yes or no, what you don't want finds you. How in the name of God, not is that possible, because that's what we're going to look at today, but how in the name of God does a human being not get to the place where they actually realize, you know what? Something keeps finding me that makes me suffer. And it doesn't matter what I've done to mitigate or control, change myself, drink cranberry juice. I don't even know what that is. I'll just leave that alone. I can't set myself free. End of story. And the question is, if you understand what's implied in that key lesson, how long does that go on? How long do you keep running from pillar to post, believing that the pain is somewhere in the past or the pleasure to relieve you from it is somewhere in the future, when you have had nothing but absolute, unequivocal, real evidence. I'm terrified of mispronouncing words because there's people in this room who go, no, 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 like that. I never used to care. That's what we're going to look at. I have a big story to tell you, a couple stories actually. And I had to take out my penknife and whittle down so much material to try to create some kind of concise revelation. Not an explanation and not a how-to, but whether or not it's possible to make certain things clear in words. I don't know if you've ever wondered why, and perhaps it's not given to you to do so. Why isn't there a direct transmission? Why can't I, for instance, just download into you the energy that allows you to be the observer instead of the captive of the things that move through you? Why isn't that possible to do that? And it never has been. Christ himself couldn't do it. He spoke in parables, didn't he? And all the teachings throughout time, parables, stories, myths. Why? Why that level of transmission? And the answer is because as we are at this current level, which has a lot to do with individuals, the consciousness that creates the environment, but also with more macrocosmic considerations having to do with literally, it is taught through the older teachings where this system of ours, our galaxy, where it is in the scheme of things. Because whether we know it or not, the earth moves around the sun moves around the center of our galaxy, and our galaxy moves around the center of something much larger than itself, so that there are wheels and wheels, and there are further places out and closer places in to the direct influences of higher orders of energy. That's enough on that. I don't want to ever get you thinking down those lines. I just want you to see a bigger picture. So the reason that we have to have stories is because as we are right now, but not because it has to be that way, we are incapable of knowing directly the characters, the qualities, the principles, the forces that the characters in these stories and the storylines represent. These stories are representations of models of higher energies. And we are intended to ourselves be a participant in these models so that we don't need words to explain to ourselves the idea of the prodigal son or any other metaphor or spiritual teaching for that matter. Because the teaching itself is meaningless unless a person can begin to divine from being interior enough what that teaching is pointing to in their own character, in their own consciousness. Made in the image of God are we, which means made in the image of all the forces that brought together all that is created, so that we are intended to have an inlet into, an insight into creation itself, because we are, in quotes, the crown of creation, but not in the grand scheme of things. We'll get to that. So I want to look at this, because I'm saying this to you now because I'm going to give you information, but you have to see it. You have to see the big picture, because if you don't, it's just blah, 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 blah. It is. apprentice angel, senior angel. They're on an extended journey. Now, I always feel like I have to go back, explain. Higher understanding, lesser understanding, visiting a planet with no understanding. Guess what planet that would be? But it's really quite remarkable because there aren't that many, at least that we know of, relative to our minute little pin drop understanding, a sentient creature, a creature who can know it exists. So they're visiting planets where this existence is supposed to be developed by that which gave the existence its life. And they're down on Earth and they're sitting in a diner. They want the genuine experience. They're in the coffee shop at Walmart. No, Costco. There's a place where you can sit down and have pizza and other food with no nutrition in it. You can have as much as you want for $1.99, not even $1.99. It's like $22.22 or something like that. Anyway, they're there, and they're sitting around, and the senior angel's waiting for the apprentice angel to have an impression. And of course, the apprentice angel's smelling the popcorn and the peanuts, and he's looking around and wondering. And then finally, but he gets an impression, and he points over to a man, and the man's sitting there with the hot dog with one bite out of it, maybe a little mustard on the corner of his mouth. And he's just staring like that. And the apprentice angel says, what's going on? What is that about? Where is he? Because they can see things we can't. You don't know that when you look at people, there's no one there, with mustard or not. Where is he? And the senior angel says, you can tell he's absent. Yeah, but his body's here. Where is he gone? Senior angel says, well, for the lack of any other way to explain it, he's gone back into the past. Well, why has he gone back into the past? He said, you really don't know? I guess I do. He said, because it's too painful to be here. The experience of himself is too much. And so something takes him, puts his attention on something that's very palatable to him so that he can be at peace with himself while he sits in Costco. That's exactly right. And they're no more sitting there than somebody on another table gets up and almost knocks the tray over with their drink in it, and suddenly just gets up and literally runs out of the area where the food's being served. Apprentice angel said, what's going on with that person? Where is he going so anxiously? Senior angel says, well, he obviously has someplace very important to be. Well, where is that? He said, the man who was shopping remembered he forgot to get the cookies. What do you mean he forgot? That's where he's going? No, he's not going to get the cookies. He's going to some place in time where when he gets the cookies, the feeling of being discontent because he didn't have the cookies will disappear. That's what you're looking at, he said to the angel, apprentice angel. One of them is trying to get to an imagined place where they can escape their time, and another is trying to get to a time where they can escape their pain. Do you understand the story? So the apprentice angel says, this is pretty serious. Senior angel says, you have no idea. You're just learning about this now. But you wouldn't be ready to learn about this if you hadn't gone through certain things. Apprentice angel says, I'd really like to know in greater depth how this could have happened to humanity. Would you, apprentice angels, like to know how this has happened to humanity? Do you see yourself in the story or not? So I didn't have time to cast a script, but I have written a story, and it's a longer one that I'm going to read to you. I'll play the characters as best I can. I might bring you in from time to time as the background voiceovers, for which you get paid nothing. Take a nice deep breath. Please listen, and please don't go into unconscious associations, meaning please don't think, just here, okay? Senior angel's talking to the apprentice angel. Long, long, long ago, in a time completely forgotten, even by most of the angels, and way before humanity fell from grace, he said, the head devil was sitting down there, and he was very dissatisfied. And in his immense dissatisfaction, he roared out in flaming words, how long have we been down here, cast as we are, just fighting amongst ourselves, trying to figure out who can be the top dog, while all along we're ignoring the fact that just above us here, those apes, you know, his favorite, they seem content. They don't have many problems. Everything is just kind of smooth. I mean, how can we live like this? We have to get the upper hand. Somehow we have to mess up their relationship with you know who. Okay. One of the little imps. No, I'm not going to do it. Maybe, well, no. It'll hurt my throat. I have to sing after class today. Imp one, number one says, you know what? We're never going to be able to master them. You know, that's impossible. I mean, how could we prove to them that we were right in what we did in the first separation, in the first fall? The first fall was not what you think the first fall was. The fall was a series of cascading levels of consciousness. And this is before humanity fell into that level that we now call the Garden of Eden, where that felt. This is a story. Remember, I'm describing to you events that are connected to principles and forces, not that actually took place the way that you read like children. So we're never going to be able to master them because, you know, as long as you know who is up there, they're never going to get to where they accept us as a master. Another imp says, that's right, but certainly we have to do better than we're doing. And finally, one little brazen imp who wants to be the head devil stands up and says, yes, but what if we can deceive them into embracing a new master? It won't be easy, he said, but I've been doing a lot of thinking about it. And if we can pull it off, there are infinite possibilities of punishing them just ahead of us to our delight. The head devil, his interest is caught. Well, what are you talking about exactly? Would-be devil, would-be head devil, WBHD. All right. He says, I've given this a lot of thought. And I know at first, with all due respect, your heatness, your hotness, with all due respect, I don't think you're going to get it at first, but let me explain. Don't, although I do like being fried, but hold off with the extra flames. We need to introduce the idea of time into their innocent minds. And the whole room went silent, something like it is right here, right now. And the head devil, not wanting to pretend like he didn't know what the would-be devil was saying, he said, well, why don't you explain it to the rest of the gang? Would-be devil says, it's simple. He said, all we do is we create the illusion that even though they have this wonderful relationship, seamless, peaceable relationship with you know who, where they want for nothing up there, all we have to do is create the illusion that something is missing from their lives. And if they had it, if they had the one thing that was missing, they would virtually be gods themselves. And how are we going to go about that? The head devil said. Little imp said, I've worked it out. We create in their consciousness, because you know we have their ear. We're not separate. we create in their consciousness by means of a subtle temptation, a desire to know the difference between good and evil. Now, head devil is shaking his head. What are you talking about? First of all, how would we accomplish it, and why would they believe it? Especially since we all know that you know who up there makes everything in his own image, so that all he creates is good, and all he creates for those who embrace it is good. How are we ever going to get past them that idea that there's some difference between good and evil? They don't even know about that up there. The would-be head devil says, yeah, okay, just cool your little hot jets. We tell them that the reason they need to know the difference between good and evil is so that then they will always know what to want and what to avoid. So we're putting into their mind this idea that there is something to want, and once we get in their mind the idea there's something to want, then it's easy to mess with that, and then they'll automatically not want anything that interferes with it. So that's what we do. There'll always be what they want and what they don't. And then the head devil, well, what has that got to do with the notion of time? You're driving me crazy. How can whatever you're talking about be used to torment them? And the would-be devil says, because once we create the illusion of the difference between what is good and what is not, in that same moment, we create the illusion of a difference between them, and the idea of difference means there is a distance between them. And once we get them to believe there is a distance between good and evil, in that illusion, time has been created. Now the head devil is starting to catch on a little bit here. He said, I think I understand, but let me just kind of clear it with you. He says, once we get them to be identified with this knowledge of good and evil, then it will take no time at all for them to love one and despise the other. Is that what you're saying? Yes, it's perfect. He said, not only will they know what to love and what to despise, but by the fact that they see them as separate, they're going to always be trying to figure out how to get more of what they love and get further away from what they despise. And the more they think and act like that, the more they live in time that doesn't exist apart from the illusion of it that we've sewn into their mind. And boom, he drops the mic. Because they will spend their life trying to possess what they imagine is good and at all costs escape what they think is evil. And if we can just deepen that conditioning, they won't be able to see anything they want without automatically fearing they'll lose it. It's done. And once that's done, all they will do is obtain one, avoid the other, creating their own prison. A prison that doesn't exist, the would-be devil went on to say, because they'll never suspect that the time they hope for or the time they try to run away from doesn't exist without what they believe they must have or otherwise escape. It's perfect. And all the little devils let out a... The head devil, I knew it all along, he said. That's well, yes or no. I was just, and he's irritated because somebody stole his idea. I knew it. I see it. They will love what they call good and despise an evil that only exists as it does for them because they have identified with its opposite. You're right. The trap is shut. They're caught in time, and they will suffer infinitely for their ignorance. End of story. But is it the end of the story? Now, maybe some of you, are any of you wondering anything at all about why I've told you that story? Or do you see there's certain parallels here? Transition. Take a nice deep breath, please. I'm not being facetious. And if it was a Wednesday night, we would spend time developing this. in one fell blow, in the fall of a consciousness into something that no longer understands the unity of the opposites, but is now defined by identification with one or the other. In that fall, a new master was created. Was it not? And the new master wasn't simply the idea of this temptation, because the new master, the temptation doesn't exist without what? Please, this is important. What is the one thing that doesn't exist without temptation? Psychological time. All temptation is to escape a past that is imagined and a future in which the pain of that past will be remediated. That's temptation. Because the temptation is what? For places, people, things, objects, yes or no. That when I get there, I won't have to experience myself as I've been. Yes or no? And the temptation when I don't want to be who I am is to do what? Is to imagine objects, places, positions, authority in a time when I won't have to suffer myself as I am. I won't have to have this experience of myself again. So that it could be said that in one respect, every temptation is the illusion that it's possible to escape the experience of myself by completing myself or escaping myself in a time that was or a time to come. Please? Yes. So who is my master? I know you don't understand this. There is want and not want. What we call our daily desires do not exist as an authority without the time required to escape or achieve that desire. This is such an important idea. So I think to myself, I'm my own master. Am I my own master? If, I'll ask you, who is your master? Who is your master? We'll go slow. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. Do you understand that? I just want to give you an experience as best possible of an understanding. But the words are not the experience, are they? They're a description. Who or what do you obey in an unwanted moment? Who or what do you obey in any unwanted moment? And don't you dare say God. Who is your God in an unwanted moment? Please. Whatever it is that my resistance and subsequent negative state points to as being the solution to the pain of the experience of myself in that moment. Yes or no? So fear, anxiety, ambition, worry, resentment, all of these exist because I am mastered in that moment by a tremendous resistance to anything that's challenging the idea of myself, the image of myself prior to that moment. And what do all of those masters that I just described, what do they all have in common? What do fear, anxiety, what do they all have in common? Yes, imagination, identification. Let me slow it down. When I'm in pain like that, what am I trying to escape? Now, slow. Because you're learning. So we say, when I'm in pain like that, what am I trying? Well, the experience of myself. But the experience of myself in any given moment cannot be separated from something in me that is measuring myself in time according to what I shouldn't have to go through or what I want to have. So that I am, for all intents and purposes, not mastered by my desires. I'm mastered by the time that these desires create. Because the desire doesn't create. Can you tell me a desire that exists without time? Do you desire to be happier, yes or no? Yes. Can you have that desire without a time to come? No. Well, do you desire to escape the past, the painful people, the things that they did to you, yes or no? Yes. Do you desire to escape that? Yes. Well, can you have the desire to escape those pains from your past without the time in which you visit to go back to? Yes or no? And can you separate where it is that you want to get to from where you want to get away from? Or are they intimately connected? So that it seems like they're different times, doesn't it? The time of my pain in the past and the time of my power and pleasure in the future. Do they not seem like they're completely distinct to you? But can you see now they are not completely distinct? They have always been a singularity divided into, by this mind, something that only knows itself by a past it identifies with, and then the future it then identifies with to escape the pain of itself. Please, do you see that with me? I'm trying to escape call it what you will. This is kind of critical. I'll bring it down a little bit. How many of you are ever sitting at home and suddenly are a little anxious or worried or angry or whatever? Yes or no? Like a silly question, right? You can be doing nothing at all. You can having coffee, reading, looking online, even reading a book. The phone will ring, there's a text message. And then all of a sudden, and this again, this is very subtle, so breathe it. Suddenly I feel like there's a predator somewhere. I mean, I know I'm in my living room, so I know there's not a predator in my living room, but as best I can describe it, I feel a stress. I feel like something's coming to get me. Yes or no? Now, what's coming to get me? No, wait. And when I'm feeling like something's coming to get me, there's an invisible predator. In that moment that I start to feel like something's about to predate on me, what do I have to do? Well, now I have to start thinking ahead. I have to start figuring out, what am I going to do about this precarious predation that's about to take place on this poor person? What do I do? Yes or no? So, who's stalking me? What is stalking? See, I tell you, I swear to God, you can't feel a fear unless prior to your awareness of the fear, you felt something stalking you. It is impossible. But we're never present to that subtle pain of the sudden pressure that we don't know where it comes from, and all we know to do when we feel that pressure is resist it by allowing our reaction to tell us, you know what, you're not prepared. You're not going to get through this. You don't have enough of that. This is never going to unfold the way it needs to unfold. What is never going to unfold the way it's supposed to unfold? Well, I don't even know what that is until I suddenly feel like there's a predator. So my future and my past, in quotes, I am stalked by time. But a time that doesn't exist apart from the consciousness that lends it its content and credibility because of how incredibly important it is to my identity that remains protected in the past or profitable in the time to come. Am I communicating? Such a, first of all, what a miracle in this dense, dim planet where human beings sit in their perennial Costco, eating their dogs, running to get their cookies. You understand that's a metaphor for this life, yes? And to suddenly recognize that all of humanity, including yourself, has been under the thumb of serving a master called time, living in perpetual fear of it. Why do you think you're so concerned with your appearance in life? You know why you're captured by wanting to appear a certain way? Because you're terrified of what time is doing to you. So you believe you can actually dismiss time by covering up the present, in which what time has done is brought to you a place where you're intended to be able to see this is what it takes place to a human being in time. But within me, by the very fact that I'm describing it to you, exists something that is timeless, because only that which is timeless can understand the workings of time. And you're created to not just understand what is timeless, but to be able to use that understanding to start liberating you from this master called time that torments you in your past and promises you a future to come. Yes or no, please? So now, how am I doing? 10 o'clock. So now, deep breath. Isn't it the strangest contradiction in the world that on one hand, I'm comforted by the idea of time, and on the other hand, I'm tortured by it? Well, how can the same thing be a comfort and a source of conflict? Am I making too many deep questions? Am I not comforted by time when I'm sitting at home and I just learned I'm going to get a new job, or I've worked out all the details of my plan. I'm going to be top dog. I don't even think we're humans yet. I've got this plan. I have these pleasures coming. I'm going on a trip. I'm going to be with these people. I'm going to have this money. I'm going to eat these foods. I'm going to work out a little bit. I'll finally have the time to read. Oh, God, it's so beautiful. And then COVID comes. Or any other one of a million conditions, macrocosmically or microcosmically, in that split second, the very pleasure that I had been identified with turns out to be the torment that I am in. And the reason I'm in that torment isn't because of what has happened, but because a time that I was identified and was promised to as the end of my pain suddenly has become the source of my pain. Is that not serving two masters? We serve two masters, seeking comfort to avoid meeting limitation, and avoiding limitation by seeking comfort. And none of those things that we seek after exist without the time in which it will be possible for us to achieve that. And the time doesn't exist apart from a divided mind that creates the time so it can create the identity forever moving and experiencing itself, but going nowhere and certainly not developing. Do you see it with me? Trying to decide how much time I have. So what do we seek in time? Now look, don't make this airy-fairy, wahoo, kumbaya, brothers and sisters. I'm in my room. I get up in the morning. I'm looking at my computer. I'm working. What is my mind always doing? Is it not in one degree or another like those two people in Costco? I'm either trying to deal with a problem that, I woke up with a problem. I woke up, I want to ask you something. Have you ever awakened in the morning and not felt like yourself? Yes or no? Yes. Well, what is it like to feel yourself? Who's the self you didn't wake up like? No, I mean it. I'm just not myself today. Well, where did it go? I don't know. But I just know I'm not. Well, when will you be yourself? Tomorrow. Well, why aren't you yourself now? Because what happened 10 minutes ago? And this is perfectly logical to this mind. It runs around in an amusement park that is a feature of a lunatic asylum. where the mind is forever entertaining itself by what it doesn't want. And the reason it's entertaining is because the more I don't want something, the more reasons I have to know why I've been denied what I've been denied. And the more I'm denied what I'm denied, the more I'm sure I'm owed something. And I can't think I'm owed something without a time when I didn't get it. So it just goes around and around and around, looking for what all the time? Some kind of path to escape some kind of pain. You watch thought, that's what it's doing, apart from practical thought. And even that's confusing for us these days. Most of us don't even have the function of our intellect. Our intellect serves the master of time. Does it not? So I'm looking for a way to free myself from a conflict that I'm experiencing in the moment. And I believe, as I listen to what is explaining to me the nature of that conflict, that what is talking to me and defining what is got me dragged down actually knows the reason that I am in that conflict. And I surrender myself to whatever the structure is of those reactions and listen to it tell me that what I need tomorrow, what I want, is the answer to what I don't want. That's the way the mind works, is it not? What I want is the answer to what I don't want. But what is it that I really want in those moments? This is why I said you can't serve two masters. You'll love one, despise the other. You can't serve time, because unconscious desire is time. You can't serve time and be free too. And for us, freedom and time are synonymous. One day I won't be afraid of dying. And then I can put aside all the silly things. One day I won't live in mortal fear that something's going to handicap me in some way. Which, by the way, the older you get, every single day you are visited by thoughts and feelings that cannot wait to point out to you with great precision where it is and what it is that you've lost that you used to have. That's like having a best friend who can't wait to steal from you your account because you gave him your phone number and your password. Listening all the time to something comparing a time when to a time that might be. And then suffering the consequence and allowing the conflict to be the driving force of liberation. When the conflict cannot liberate you, it is the very effect of you trying to liberate yourself from the effect of time. You able to? Is it like I said? I've told you a story, and I'm describing to you the elements of it. And are the elements out there? This has been addressed in so many different ways, but the teachings are lost. They asked Christ, teach us how to pray. And in those days, pray didn't mean, although even it did back then, pray didn't mean teach us how to get what we want. Pray meant teach us how to be in relationship with our Father, with our divine mother, with God, with what is divine. Teach us how to be at peace. Real peace. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So right in that opening line, there is a complete testimony to the fact that there is a time that is not divided up and a will that bridges them. that it is possible for the will of heaven to be done in this consciousness, in this body, without any conflict at all. Unlike the conflict we have with everything, because our will is always in competition with what influences are acting on us in that moment. Please. And lead us not into temptation. Now, even in the simplest way in which a person can study the old Aramaic, more fear passed through me. Here's what that means. Please, whatever it takes, help me see where it is that I keep trying to complete myself in a time to come. Please help me see where it is I keep trying to escape myself from a time into a time. And deliver us from evil. Evil not being some moral, pseudo-spiritual, religious idea. Lead us not into the idea that I can complete myself in a time to come, because the minute that I imagine a time to come, I am separate from the timelessness of my Father. And in the separation of myself from the will of heaven and its activity of reconciling the earth, in that split second, in that separation, there is suffering. And the suffering does what? The consciousness that suffers its own will then tries to figure out a time when it can escape the consequences of its own actions. And the more it tries to escape the consequences of its own actions, what happens to it? The more karma it has. Temptation doesn't exist without the illusion of time. And there's no time without the illusion of temptation. Now, what is that going to mean to you when we're done talking? Because I can see everybody here, for the greater part, is interested in absorbing this. But what does it mean? I know it's true. There's this almost, I don't know there's a predator behind me until there is a problem in front of me. I don't know there's a predator behind me until there's a problem in front of me. Yes? I'm not sitting here thinking, oh God, when do I get to stop? Why is this happening to me? Do any of you whine? Do any of you cheese? You are cheesy. Why is something just, when am I going to get a break? But that never occurs to me until there's been an influence that I didn't see. Till something has come in and stirred in me this idea that somehow if I don't accomplish, become, or achieve whatever it is that moment is telling me is a requirement, then if I don't achieve it, I'm going to be consumed by what's chasing me from behind. Isn't it true? And I spent my whole life with that as my master. You have spent, humanity in its fallen state has spent its entire existence not just cultivating that consciousness, but conditioning it ever more deeply by its own action of never investigating what in the name of God am I afraid of. So that the time comes when a person begins to recognize, and I suppose this is leading into the exercise, what happens if I stop trying to complete myself or otherwise escape myself in a time to come? What would that even mean? Do you understand the question? What would that even mean? I said, isn't it a strange contradiction? Again, I bring you, isn't the most extraordinary contradiction. I'm so comforted by the idea of going to dinner with people and having lovely things and drinking wine and eating good food, and then the dinner party gets canceled, or I find out I wasn't invited. And all of a sudden, all of that comfort, all of that consolation, and the very thing which was a time to come, which had, what is the substance of any time to come? What is the substance of any time to come? Imagination. Isn't it? And you can't have the substance of a time to come, imagination, without an identity. Imagination and identification is synonymous. So the substance of any time to come is my unseen dependency upon who I've imagined I'll be when I get to that time to come. I'll be happy. I won't have pain. All of my problems, Lord, will soon be over. Are your problems over? Or are they gradually compounding? And if you're honest. And by compounding, I don't mean more problems. I just mean more resistance to the same problems. So if I understood anything that I've just explained to you, from the bottom up, little devils down there, I've got it. We need to create the idea of time. If we can just get them to think to themselves that this is better than that. If we can just do that moment, there's distance. But the distance doesn't exist outside of what their own mind makes of it. And they'll spend their lives running like in a hamster wheel. And we'll use all of that energy to ensure that it gets hotter and hotter down here. What do you think the exercise is? Anybody?
Put the open sign up.
Do what?
Put the open sign up.
Oh, put the open sign up. Well, we could say that, put the open sign up from the talk yesterday, but let's put it this way. See if you can't put this together, and then we'll examine it for 2 minutes. We'll come to an end. Where there is pain of any kind, stress, anxiety, what it also is there in the moment. Anytime I feel stress, anxiety, what's also there? What's also there? Suddenly there's stress and anxiety. What else is there? Let me get out of here. Yes or no? I can't bear this. Now, you may not hear those words. That usually has to get to a certain escalated point where something starts saying, I can't take it. I can't take it. But before it gets there, all that's breeding and brewing down there in that darkness, in that consciousness, is basically one thing. I cannot take it. I cannot take whatever it is that is threatening me, because if I don't answer it, then in a time to come, I'm dog meat. I'm dead. I'm toast. And if I fail in a time to come, I'm toast. Well, let me see. Either way I look at this, as long as I'm trying to escape this pain, I'm toast. The devil's favorite breakfast food. So let me be aware of the temptation to escape myself in a time to come. Let me be aware of the temptation to avoid a time that I blame for my pain. Because if you're following all of this, there is nothing but useless, unconscious suffering in any moment where some knee-jerk resistance to an unwanted moment creates the illusion that there's something else that could have happened, and now I know what should have happened in the past, and I know what needs to happen in the future, and that there is useless suffering in that. Is there not? Please, is there not? Useless suffering. Why is it useless suffering? Because it does nothing to change the consciousness responsible for an unconscious relationship with those lower levels. Yes or no? Useless suffering. On the other hand, if I understand the time that I have to deal with doesn't exist apart from my experience of myself in this moment. My experience is my time. My experience is my time, because my time and my experience can't be separated from the consciousness that is being influenced by what's acting on it, and it is constantly creating something. So my time, my experience, and creation are a singularity. They're something that we are intended to be a participant in, but that we're always avoiding, running from, or running to some way to escape it. The task is to suffer consciously the temptation to find a time where you won't be experiencing you. The temptation is to deliberately, consciously challenge anything in you that says, here's how to answer this fear. Don't answer it. Now that means, you're not going to, again, I want to stress on you, I'm setting up a laboratory for you to, as a student, enter into and use the apparatus, the tools, the understanding, so that you can begin through your own experimentation to discover whether these things are true or not. Because the more you can validate the truth that your master is time, but you don't know it, and it is a very cruel master. That's what Pharaoh was in Egypt, in the Old Testament, the land of darkness. The land of darkness, making bricks without straw, all had to do with the fact that they're, as a race of beings, a level of consciousness, a complete captive of something that had no authority over it at all. None other than the punishment that it would lay out, that it was captured by. I don't want to get off into a sidebar. Exercise should be clear. What's the exercise? I'm not going to try to escape this moment. I'm not going to try to escape this moment. I'm going to let the experience of the moment reveal the characters producing it. Allow the experience, the awareness of it, to reveal the characters. Then you enter into the world that I described at the beginning of the talk, do you not? Now I'm actually witnessing these forces, these principles. I'm witnessing these characters. I'm witnessing Satan. I'm witnessing the angels. I'm witnessing all of that, as is my right to do, because I am, in fact, the embodiment of all of those characters and qualities. Then you have a chance. Not a chance to be free, but a chance to recognize that the whole idea of freedom and a time to come is an illusion. Because there's no you that's a captive other than a sense of consciousness that has fallen into this idea of what I don't want and what I do, the time when it shouldn't be, and the time when at last I'll be free. There is no time at last when you will be free. You do the work now, and you're granted the freedom to see the truth of yourself, and that sets you free. Let's take a break, come back and have our dialogue.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Before we move to our discussion with Guy, I have a couple of quick reminders for you all, and also a very special, important announcement that I want to make for the first time here. The two quick reminders are, number one, as you just saw on the last screen right before the music ended, was again a reminder that we are a nonprofit organization here at the Life of Learning Foundation, and so we are grateful for and always are interested in inviting you to join us in our mission, and we are grateful for your support in our mission of sharing these ideas around the world. So again, please do, if you are so inclined, please do visit our website at guyfinley.org/donate, and there you can find a number of different ways in which you can help us in our mission if you wish, and we are grateful again for your support. The second quick reminder is that we have an upcoming special event here at the Life of Learning at not this Friday, but the next Friday, December 15th through the 17th. We have our last weekend of wisdom here for 2023 with Guy, a special 3-day event. And the title of the talks, as we've been letting you know, is To Be in the World. Finally, I said I have a very important, very special announcement to share with you all, and so I'm going to read that to you. This is an announcement whether if you live locally or attend classes in person at the foundation, or if you've been thinking about visiting the Life of Learning Foundation between December 19th. During these 4 weeks, Guy will be out of town, and the foundation will be closed until he returns to resume his in-person speaking schedule on January the 17th. Please be assured that even though Guy will be traveling, he will continue to live stream his talks from his home in Florida. Also note that our online student-led study groups will remain on their schedule via GoToWebinar, Facebook, and YouTube. While Guy is in Florida, he will be giving a free talk at the Daytona Beach Regional Library, and his talk will be live streamed during our regular class time on Sunday, January 7th. So you'll be able to attend this special presentation as well. For more information about Guy's talk at the Daytona Library, please don't call the library, but do visit guyfinley.org/Daytona. If you know anyone who lives in the area, be sure to invite them to Guy's talk, and do check our website's events section for any updated news announcing additional talks or interviews that may be added to that schedule while he's on the East Coast. So finally, again, a reminder, remember, from this coming December 19th through the 16th of January, the Life of Learning will be closed, and all talks will only be available online. So we'll be reminding you of that important news periodically in the next couple of weeks. So let's go back to the main room. Here that Guy has a few more comments he wished to make before we move to our discussion. So turning it back over to you, Guy.
Thank you. So I wanted to read to you a second key lesson that is a summary, more or less, of what we just read and studied together. Let's bring it up. Apart from providing simple food, clothing, and shelter for oneself, the entire painful belief that we must struggle to survive is a flawed, fallen human idea. It is a creation of a fear-filled misperception of life born of having forgotten who we are, including the reason for why we're here on earth. There's another possibility that we have. Or I could say it in reverse. We are living out an impossibility. Again, the great teachings have alluded to this other kingdom, this other level of consciousness. I didn't have time to put it in the talk, but I have spoken at depth and will just for a moment expand an idea. In that first line from the 23rd Psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It's almost inconceivable to a human being, the idea, I shall not want. But the understanding of that passage and the whole of that particular psalm, or for that matter, all of the teachings, is that the idea of I shall not want sits side by side next to something that can be said, I don't have to want because I'm given everything that I need moment to moment. So want and not want is not part of my consciousness. Obviously, at the practical levels, I want strawberry ice cream instead of chocolate. I want navel oranges instead of pears. But want and not want is this incessant drilling down inside of ourselves where everything is measuring what the moment should have been as imagined in time to a time when it might be a problem or where we might escape the pain of that. Instead of understanding and to the heart of that idea and the talk, I know this is difficult. If I'm not from myself, who will be? If I don't complete myself, who's going to do it? And I'm compelled. It's almost fibrous in terms of the system and its compulsion to respond and to make sure that whatever has been completed stays that way and everything that isn't needs to be carried forward and all of that. And it doesn't dawn on us. I shall not want means that I understand the moment is never not completing itself, and I am the moment. The moment is I. That is what real I is. No separate creature running around, some mad hatter trying to get to a tea party where he's the toast of it. But the understanding that as a creation of the divine, I am the moment. There's no moment apart from the consciousness that registers it. Can you not understand that? There is no moment apart from the experience of this consciousness in it. Which means I am the moment. And if I am the moment, and the moment is perfectly, constantly perfecting itself through the revelation of the divine creator, then that means that there is nothing for me that I have to want or not want in terms of punishment or pleasure. Not that there isn't the natural, again, but to be defined by it. Let the moment complete itself. Let the moment complete, at least give it a whack. Do you understand? At least give it a whack. At least understand it. Use the new understanding as a platform upon which and through which you can see this incessant compulsion to try to change the past and hope for a better future, and let the moment complete. See what you can learn in that laboratory of the timeless nature that you have. Okay, John.
Okay, Guy, we have hands in the queue and written questions. So we'll go right to the queue and start with Greg, who is the first one. Hello, Greg, you're unmuted. Now unmute yourself. You'll just click on the microphone. That should be able to unmute you.
Hello. Greg.
All right, we'll go next. We'll go next to Irene in the queue and we'll see if we can work things out with Greg. Hello, Irene, you're unmuted. Hello, Irene, are you there? Ah, all right.
Now?
Wait, yes.
Hello, sorry. Hi, sorry.
I was beginning
Thanks,
to
John.
despair.
Hi, Guy. Thank you. Yeah. You once said, and it made a lot of sense, that the peace is, the unfinished business with, with God. And it's like I get myself into these situations where I'm not supposed to look for them, but I end up being there. Like, I don't know, for instance, going to a parking, seeing someone that I'm upset with, or that sort of thing. Is it just better to sort of pray to God rather than concentrate on the consciousness? And I just the situations get upsetting, and then I get more upset, and then it goes to pain and etc. and so forth.
Yeah,
Like that.
Irene, you were breaking up pretty badly, so I'm going to take a shot at what I think you were asking me. And I'll explain something, I hope, in greater depth. When all is said and done, if there is a real prayer in the human heart, it doesn't have words. Because it is the direct experience of myself, at once my nothingness and yet my all total possibility of being a participant in that moment. So when I really see something that's tearing me up, at some point I realize that it's not the moment tearing me up, but my own consciousness is so caught up in conflict with trying to resolve the difference between who I am and what things should be. And I'm so caught up in that, one day it's just evident to me. And my mind stops because it can't contribute to its own conflict. And when it stops, there's just the pure experience of that consciousness. The pure experience of consciousness is a prayer. Because without words, I am allowing His will to act upon mine. So it is a moment of real communion that doesn't have words and doesn't require them. So if I get to that point, then I don't need to try to sort out the rest of the world. Because that's what we're doing. It's like, everybody's got like 87,000 different notepads with 2 or 3 little tasks on it. And we're forever throwing the pads in the air trying to figure out what's important to do. Well, one day you realize that the whole idea of your future where you're at last free is ludicrous. You just get it. There is no future where you will be free that doesn't involve a past that you're a captive. It doesn't exist. Because whatever I imagine is going to make me free, time is going to make sure it goes away. What did Mr. Howard say? It is wise to seek immortality because time defeats all other ambition. You don't have to be a genius to see it, but you do have to be willing to see it. And then when you see it, all of your ambition of trying to get everybody to be the way you want them to be and go you go where you want to go. I got all the 60s songs in my head today. All of it's just mute to you. Then you look around, you spend time with human beings, that's all they do. That's all everyone does. Because they have no life. My life is my past. My past is my pain and pleasure when I pull up a good memory. And my good memories are trashed by the fact that I'm dying or my health is going to hell in a handbasket. And now I have to come up with another future. No, you don't. But not until you understand what it means. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. How willing am I to bear as best I can, not succeed, Can you understand all of how these words, do you understand what is the idea of success without the idea of time? Not succeed. Seed. 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 Because seeing is a seed. Seed, not success. Seed. What can I do, Irene, with all that's going on, and not identify with some God who's going to save me, because then I'm in the future figuring out at some point I'll be up there with all that good chocolate or whatever is going on. No, just let me be where I am with what I am as best I can be there for as long as I can be there. And then the rest is up to him. On we go, John.
All right, Guy, here is a written question from Carl, and then we'll give Greg a try back in the queue. I see he's back in there. Here's a question from Carl. He says, self-remembering. One part is aware of my true nature and my presence, and the other part goes out into life with all the risks and identifications with a conscious effort to be aware of the higher and lower forces so that I'm not pulled into one or the other direction. I stay in the center, really trying my best to practice this lately, Guy. But don't get me confused. It's hard.
I'm smiling because I have to say something to you that you won't like, but that I like. Christ said, love thine enemies. Who are my enemies? Confusion is my enemy, isn't it? Self-doubt, regret, tomorrow, what may come. These are my enemies. How do I love my enemies? By letting yourself stay long enough with the experience of the predator and the promise so that you start to understand there's no enemies. Love has no enemies. Those aren't words. Love is an action. It is the movement of a sacrifice. Let me best practice as I can love as best I understand it. Not derive an identity from it, because that's not love. But see where identification creates over and over again the antithesis of love, so that I might be more and more present to myself and see, instead of acting against myself, what would be a true action in favor of myself. Then I can begin to do the work that I must. I hope that helps a little bit, Carl. I don't want to confuse you. Okay, John. I understand.
Okay, Guy, we'll go next. We'll give Greg a try again and see if we can unmute him. I see right now. There you go, Greg. Hello.
Hello there. Can you hear me okay, Guy?
I can. Hi, Greg.
How are you doing?
Good.
I want to tell you, it's a heartfelt statement. I understood everything that you said today. It made great sense to me. And I realize now it's a day by day, not just a once for all discovery.
Yes.
And I'm realizing that as it comes up, sometimes I'm successful. Well, we'll use the word success in this case, or I'm able to see myself. But then there's that occasion, like when my wife says something very bad to me that really hurts my feelings. Then I go, why did she say that? You know, what? You know, I don't respond. So I think, am I being open because I didn't say anything, or am I allowing these feelings to take place so I can discover something new about myself? So I'm hoping you can elaborate on that in some way that helps me with that.
The only way that any aspirant, any man or woman who wants something timeless, the only way we will ever, I'm using words very carefully here, arrive at the peace that we seek is when we stop looking for a place where that freedom waits for us. What are all of my considerations about how I should handle somebody? What do I say? What's the right way to say it? Where do I go from here? What is all of that other than having found an idea and image in time that if I can just pull it off, then I'll be in a place, once again, where I am at peace. And there is no such place of peace in passing time. Psychological time has no peace in it. It is piecemeal, P-I-E-C-E, that always is trying to put itself together and cannot. But it doesn't care that it cannot because it always has the hope that one day it will, and that is its identity. On we go, John.
Here is a question, Guy, from Rodiani. Rodiani asks, resistance is a visit to the past, a resurrected memory. What about the first unwanted event of a certain time in the past?
Oh, I understand. He's saying that the first part of his statement is that the resistance is a psychological resistance is an instantaneous return to the past with a memory that was unpleasant and I don't want it. That's resistance. But he's saying, well, what about the first unwanted event? You know, there's this terrible underlying assumption that you know who you are. It's really, it's a curse. Somebody tell me how I got to look like this. Or for that matter, how in the name of heaven I wound up teaching the world. You can't, there's no explanation for it. Each and every one of us comes in to this world a certain set of possibilities. Who can describe that? Who cares? A certain set of possibilities. You can see it. One little kid, before he's 2 years old, he's doing math. I can't do it to 75. Another kid at 2 years old is still 2 years old when he gets to 75. Because whatever it was that was intended to develop that seed never developed it. So here I am, and I am a possibility. Possibilities aren't white and black. They aren't left and right. They are the perfectly passive material that in its passivity, because it is a creation, and it is a creation, already comes complete with its, in quote, preferences. It comes in a little more yin, a little less yang. It comes in a little more white, a little less dark. It comes in a little more black, a little more white. It comes in a composite character. And the composite character isn't in intellect, it's essential, it's energetic. And these energies, they have their own relationship with all other energies that act upon them. And so our early experience of the first thing we resist isn't because there's a me that resists it, although there are essential qualities that fabricate the substance of the soul, but nevertheless, all of that is unfolding and being revealed through all of these moments. So that what we get to see is that the first resistance is usually an indicator of something inside of that consciousness that requires its development, because resistance is unfinished development. Resistance is unfinished development. So instead of that which I resist and hate, I learn to understand resistance is saying to me, this part of myself requires more development. Let the moment do what it was intended to do. Complete itself, complete that essence so that it can go on and do the rest of whatever business it's given to do. That's the best I can do with that. Let's go on.
All right, Guy, we have 3 hands in the queue, so let's go back there and we'll go next to Katrina. Good morning, Katrina.
Hi, good morning. Okay, so this morning's talk, wow, just so perfectly tied in with my question last time that I spoke with you. I felt like the talk spoke to everything I've asked and then some, and yet I still have, of course, this, well, it's resistance, right? Which is unfinished business, because I won't just, and if I'm understanding clearly, because the moment is asking for me to just stop. But then there's this blackout guy, and I'm wondering, like, for me personally, there's like this blackout sort of feeling. And I feel like I want deeply to connect, but then there's this fallout. That part, do you still just sit there and just allow that to kind of play out?
You know, Kat, back in, I don't know when it was, let me think so I get my head on straight. Signed with Motown in 71. Back in the early 70s, my partner and I, we were the first white soft rock artists ever to sign with Motown Records. And our first album, the reason I'm bringing this up, was called Dazzle 'Em with Footwork. Pretty prophetic. Because I don't know about my partner, but I knew I was, however I got to be signed on as a composer to a major label, I had dazzled somebody with footwork. Somehow, I have no idea how it happened. Kat, you're constantly trying to dazzle yourself with footwork. This is very personal and private, Kat, what I'm going to say to you. You know those moments where nobody's around you and there's that complete collapse, pure frustration, mind racing? That's what you're avoiding. That's what all of this footwork is about. Trying to hide from an image that Kat didn't make, but that Kat believes in about herself. The consummate, whatever Kat is, the consummate of being in that moment. All of that's got to go, Kat. And life never stops bringing. Has life ever, what was the opening key lesson? Isn't it amazing that wherever I go, it still finds me? Well, I've explained that today, haven't I, why it still finds me? Because this consciousness is inseparable from the condition that is constantly being hunted down by its own expectation. A little lightness now, Kat. Do you remember, most of you don't remember, who remembers Jimmy Durante? We're an older school here. If you're joining us for the first time, he had a big schnozola, and he go ha cha 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 cha, and he wrote this music. I'm going to sit right down and write myself a letter and make believe it came from you. I'm going to write words oh so sweet. They're going to knock me off my feet. I'll put kisses at the bottom, and I'll be glad I got them. Ha cha cha cha. Sit down and write yourself a letter, Kat. Dear Kat, no more dazzling footwork. Dear God, help me to stay where I am with what I am in the moment I need to see it. Don't let me move from there, and if I do move, at least let me see what has moved me and what I have been moved into. You make a work and a wish like that, Kat, you will see what it is that you've been asking for all of these years. And I know you can do it. On we go, John.
All right, Guy, we'll go next to Robert in the queue. Hello, Robert, you're unmuted.
Morning.
Hi, Robert.
Hey, Guy, excellent. And thank you for unveiling these, for lack of better terms, primitives of essence, obscured by sleep or the continual flow of psychological time. I have a question, but I just wanted to start with that because it's just this and last Sunday, I've got stars all over my notes, which basically means got to go back and review that again.
Good.
In particular, things like mini I, memories are stored with an I, amazing distillation, if you will. The notion of just the facts, excellent, again. And what I really do see is, I'm going to use a common term, so much of this work starts with understanding the benefits of deferred gratification. My question is, can you tie in the beginning of this talk where you started talking about the cascading of the ray of creation? I missed something, how you bridged that, if you could. Thank you.
Briefly, Robert, all I was alluding to and all I had time to outline was the idea that this ray of creation, subsequent creation, even as outlined in the Old Testament, and certainly throughout Scripture, East and West, in one form of myth or legend, is that you cannot separate the vine from the branch it grows, but that each branch in turn becomes the vine, but it's not the vine anymore. It is the vine and the branch. It is divided. It is no longer just the purity, just the innocence, just the love. And so each subsequent branch of creation was by nature subsequently incomplete, more so than the branch or the vine that it came from. At a certain point, you could think of as fractals, all of that bleeds not just in terms of the macrocosmic creation, but it bleeds into all that is created through the throes of that larger act of creation. So that you see the fragmentation in the consciousness that was itself and is itself an expression of a fragmentation of the world that gave rise to that consciousness. That's the best I can explain that. Over to you, John.
Guy? Okay, we'll go next to Tony in the queue, Guy. Hello, Tony. You're unmuted.
You. There you go. Good morning. I'm glad you had room for me. Thanks for the talk, Guy.
Good morning, Tony.
I'm going back to something I was trying to develop in a prior conversation with you, but I took too long over it. And today you brought it up again, so I'm going to go there.
Okay.
You know how you were discussing how there's a psychological development from childhood to adulthood. But I believe there's a spiritual development as well from its seed to development fully. And at some point, I mean, the reason I chime in and want to hear you all the time is that it's lonely here.
Yes, it is.
It's lonely here. And I wonder how you manage that. And also, I know you're beyond that because you're into the generativity. You are spreading the word. You're going towards recreating this world with your words. And I just want you to share your development there.
I understand that question, Tony, and it's a good one. And it's something that, however we may formulate the words to express the idea, at some point, every true aspirant has to go through that. Christ alluded to it as a necessity, a pre-requirement. Sell all and follow me. What am I selling? I'm selling my time, my identity. But I am terribly dependent upon the time of my relationships, of my family, of my economy, of my health, of my interests. I'm terribly dependent upon all of these relationships to provide me with a sense of continuity, so that though I do not see it yet, my sense of continuity is absolutely connected to what I have no authority over whatsoever to continue. It is what it is. It does what it does. Things are going to unfold, and at some point, I'm going to take my last breath, and all of that's gone. But the more you see the truth of these things, Tony, the more you're like one of the workers in the field. You don't want to do certain things. I don't want to, but I've been given a field. That's my obligation. And when you begin in earnest to do your duty in spite of whether or not anybody likes what you do your duty in spite of whether people resist and react to you. You do your duty in spite of the fact that nobody likes what you're doing. You do it as purely as you can, with all of yourself, as best you can bring all of yourself to it. And every time that you do that you do what you have been given to do that no one else on this earth can do in the way you're given to do it, then you receive a commensurate reward. But the reward isn't because you've been a good person. The reward is because you have denied what you called good in yourself, which was the continuation of yourself. And then you are fed. You become, you've moved into a new world where there's another kind of food. And you know, as difficult as it is, I even alluded to this yesterday. I think you were on Insight Timer, Tony. Some days there's just, you couldn't find, if you were looking for a spiritual bone in a person's body, you'd have to go look in someone else's body because there's nothing there in it. Do you ever have days like that? What's my job? My job isn't to be happy with myself. Tried it. Didn't work. My job isn't to be unhappy with myself. I was a master. My job is to explore myself, to remember myself and take the intention that has been developed over time and bring the gradually developing attention, Tony, into the moment where I don't need company. Company's lovely. But you can measure the extent of your real freedom as granted to you by the truth that lets you see yourself. The extent to which you need no one and nothing around you is the extent to which you're free. Because then everything can come and it can go. It can come and it can go. And to you, it's great when it's there, and it's great when it's not. Because you have a relationship with something that isn't of this world. Hope that helps, Tony. Anything else, John? Anything left?
Well, Guy, we made it through the queue. I do have 3 written questions left over, but it's well past the hour, and we always like to have students in the room talk. What would you like to do?
Well, let's see if there's anybody that's coming up. Anybody planning on coming up? Ellen's in moving. Something's moving, Ellen. And then, John, maybe we'll take one, but we'll see what happens.
Understood.
Hello, my name is Ellen. When you were concluding your opening remarks of the second half, you referred to the white rabbit, and I had been thinking of another character from Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Mm-hmm.
So in Through the Looking Glass, she comes to this place and there's this big chessboard and the Red Queen is on a spot in the chessboard and she's running, so that it's like you can almost hardly see her. And she says, "It takes all the running I can do to stay in one spot." And I mean, it just all came to me. Because that's how I feel in my head.
Yes.
Running.
And you're even wearing red today.
I'm even wearing red today.
Well, that's precise. Good observation.
And, okay, so I'm on this artificial chessboard, trying to hold my spot,
Black and white squares, opposites,
opposite.
ones and zeros.
And I'm just holding myself, this thing that isn't even real, and creating it by going back and forth, past and future, in time, trapped in time, on this chessboard, doing everything I can to stay in one spot.
Doing everything it can
to keep
to have
itself
the
alive.
feeling of being in a spot that's imagined to begin with, because it doesn't exist apart from the play of the opposites.
Right. And what you're saying, to just come back and just be in the present moment, keep my attention in the present moment, is to come out of that time, come outside of that artificial time. And you're not on the chessboard anymore. You're in a timeless spot. I don't know, I can understand it, and yet this buzzing, it never stops. But even to get out of it for a split second, you can feel that difference.
You can't hear the buzzing and being identified with it at the same time. You can't hear the buzzing and be identified with it at the same time. Identification is deafness, it's blindness.
Right.
So the first thing that happens is I start to be aware of this buzzing, what you're called buzzing.
Yeah.
What Kat was calling, what did she call it? Something, well, but everybody has a word for it.
Yeah.
But suddenly, well, what the heck is this buzzing? Oh no, buzzing. And now I'm confused about the buzzing. And then I'm buzzing over the buzzing. But it's a gradient, Ellen.
Mm-hmm.
It is a gradient. Awareness is whole, but our relationship to what is revealed within it in this consciousness is a form of gradients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, this talk was amazing and just explained so much about all of that.
Good. I love that, running as fast as I can to stay in one spot. That's pretty good description, isn't it? All you have to do is a lot of cocaine and you can see these things too.
Meaning Lewis Carroll?
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Eric. And a little while ago, Guy mentioned Simone Weil, something by Simone Weil.
Yes.
And so I am the curator of One Journey website, onejourney.net, and I looked it up because I wanted to put it up there. And I found a couple of other passages from Simone. And you know how, you can hear something and you do understand it to some extent, but yet sometimes there's a certain wording of it, of what you've already heard before, and it's kind of like a sharper arrow, has been shot at you and it pierced a few more layers. And that's kind of what these talks are about sometimes. Mm-hmm. But anyway, here's a couple of other things that Simone Weil said, and usually the most brief sentences are the best, the simplest. Here they are. Absolutely unmixed attention is prayer. And the other one, attention taken to its highest degree is the same thing as prayer. And this is me, not her. The thing I thought I was supposed to get away from is the very ingredient I was looking for.
Correct. Were you at Disneyland recently? You picked up a ghost. It's your life. It's your time. Use it. I'll see you Wednesday.